On March 17th, 1959, in the darkness and frozen air of the night, I slipped out of the main gate of the Norbolinka Palace, disguised and wearing a chuba, an everyday layman's form of clothing. That began what turned out to be more than 6 decades of life in exile away from my homeland of Tibet. Although the seed that grew into my need to flee was sown by the communist Chinese invasion of my country in 1950, the immediate trigger was the tension that had been building up in the Tibetan capital city of Lhasa, exploding into a people's uprising on March 10th, 1959. For nearly 9 years after the invasion, I had tried to come to some kind of accommodation with the communist Chinese for the sake of my people's well-being. But it was an impossible task. A few days after my departure, China's People's Liberation Army bombarded the city. In this way, the tragic tale of my homeland and people over the second half of the 20th century and into the 21st unfolded. Ever since first being forced into exile in India in 1959, my primary task has been the cause of Tibet and its people. I am now approaching my 9th decade. The issue of Tibet remains unresolved, while my homeland is still in the grip of repressive communist Chinese rule. Tibetans inside Tibet continue to be deprived of their dignity as a people and their freedom to live their lives according to their own wishes and their culture, as they did for more than a millennium before 1950. Since any expression of Tibetan identity is seen today as a threat by Tibet's new rulers, there is the danger that in the name of stability and territorial integrity, attempts might be made to erase our civilization. This book is, primarily, an account of more than 7 decades of my dealing with successive leaders of Communist China on behalf of Tibet and its people. It is also an appeal to the conscience of the Chinese people, many of whom share with us a spiritual heritage in Mahayana Buddhism, which I refer to as the Sanskrit tradition, as well as the broader international community, to care for the plight of the Tibetan people. Ours is an existential crisis, the very survival of an ancient people, and their culture, language, and religion is at stake. Drawing on the lessons learned from my long period of engagement with Beijing, the book also aims to offer some suggestions on what might be the path forward. Given that ours is the struggle of a people with a long history of distinct civilization, it will, if necessary, continue beyond my lifetime. The right of the Tibetan people to be the custodians of their own homeland cannot be indefinitely denied, nor can their aspiration for freedom be crushed forever through oppression. One clear lesson we know from history is this: if you keep people permanently unhappy, you cannot have a stable society.